like the other ones.
Welcome back to 10 Foot Customs, and on this episode, and maybe the next one, we're going to work on, well, kind of getting the rims ready for Rusty. These are the rims for Ruby, but I want to test some stuff on Ruby before I do the good rims on Rusty. But before I do these rims in the oven, which I just use a standard old house oven, I need to build brackets that are going to be strong enough to hold these rims in that oven. So I'm not going to bore you with the fabrication of that because it's probably going to take 4 or 5 different iterations to get a strong enough bracket. So I'm going to build that really quick, and then tomorrow we will hopefully start powder coating. Well, got this done. Took a couple hours to build it, and the rim will go on here now. This will fit in the oven. Nothing's fantastic. The welds are actually really bad, but I think that my gauge on my welder is off because I don't think there's any gas left. So this is mostly all done with no gas, which is fine. It doesn't need to be pretty. So this will then sit in the oven like that. To practice doing this with the rim, holding the rim from the side like this, because if I can pick it up and put it in there like that every time without hitting anything, then we'll be good. And I guess if it's 2 people, you can put it on it and then slide it in, but either way, that will then slide into the oven. That can go all the way back without the rim touching the back of the oven, and close the oven. So the next most important thing is I have to find my powder coating gun. And I'm not 100% sure where I put everything, so that's what I'm going to do now. See if I can track that down, and if I can, tomorrow we start powder coating. Well, I was unable to find my powder coating gun. It's somewhere. I don't know why I wouldn't have brought it here to my house from my dad's when he moved, but I can't find it. So luckily I am close to a Eastwood retail store. So I went up this morning and got a new gun. This is their dual voltage gun. You can use a single voltage gun. The dual voltage gun is for when you're doing bigger pieces, according to them. So that's I can run on both. They are not super expensive. They're also not super cheap. But if you do as much powder coating as that I've done, having your own system, in my opinion, is the way to go. The gun itself cost me $170 for this new one. And I think we got the oven out of the garbage. So the oven didn't cost us anything. And for the biggest I'm going to be able to do is probably these rims. Is probably going to be the biggest thing I've ever done all in one piece. And, I've done motorcycle rims, and they fit. But for this thickness and width, this is taking up the entire size of my oven. But 170 bucks. Ovens you can find a lot. It's got to be an electric oven. It's not a bad cost to be able to powder coat some of your own stuff. I got to do a couple odds and ends here to get this thing ready. I've got to get a air end for here, run an extension cord for the power supply, and that's about it. So give me a minute to get this set up, and then I'll tell you what I did last night to prep for today, and we'll get started powder coating. We kind of had to move things in here. The rain that was just coming down hard, and the lightning and thunder
was not planned. And one of the main things with powder coating that you have to be sure is that everything stays dry. You cannot get the powder wet at all, or it clumps up, and it's like talcum powder. It's so fine. I thought really quick I'd run through how a powder coater works. I'm sure most of you understand, but for those who may not understand what powder coating is, I figure just a quick, because honestly, I don't 100% know exactly how it all works, but you have your powder coating gun, which is your powder goes in this little screw-on hopper here. One thing that I do different and I don't understand why Eastwood hasn't done this, it just doesn't make sense. I connect, well, let me step back a second. There is a positive charge when the powder gets pulled out of the hopper with the air, because you just hook this up to a air compressor. As it passes this metal tip, it puts a positive charge into the powder. On the other side, on your piece that you're working on, you have this negative alligator clip on something. Doesn't matter how you get it to it. A lot of times when I'm powder coating, I just have a metal wire that's hanging my part so that I can powder coat the whole thing. I'll put this on the metal wire, and this is a negative clip. So as this powder comes out of the gun, it wants to be attracted to the negative part. As I was saying before, I'm not quite sure why Eastwood hasn't done this yet. This button is what causes the charge to build, and it's a separate wire. So you either have to somehow hold it in this hand and hit the button, or hold it in this hand, hit the button, and pull the trigger on this side to powder coat things. But sometimes you need this hand to do something, though, to move a part, to adjust something. And so I just zip tie my trigger or my button to my trigger. That way, one hand, I can pull this and ease my powder onto the product. It just works really well, and I don't know why they haven't integrated their button into the handle somewhere. It would just seem to make sense. So mount my box down here, which is just to keep it out of the way and make it a little more, less tripping over it. There is this thing that can come on or off depending on how you want to use it. This is a diffuser. This will diffuse the powder when it hits it and put it into a larger area. But if you're trying to get small areas, like on these rims I'm going to be doing, the black I'm putting down is just going to be on the fins. I'm probably not going to run this. I'll just kind of point this at it with the flow of the air and just kind of coat it. I may put a regulator on here. You don't need a ton of air pressure. Actually, a little bit less air pressure is better. I mean, you can control how much air with the trigger. You can just regulate it at your compressor if you want to do it that way. I do have an inline regulator that I might throw on, that way I can kind of dial it in as I want. But that's the basics. And the bare basics is the powder is powdered plastic. So you have a powdered plastic in this hopper. You're adhering it to a metal surface, and then you're putting it in an oven for 400 degrees, and it's melting that powder and making a smooth coating. And then you cure it, and it's done. With a normal, I can't, a normal piece, but let's say you were going to powder coat a crescent wrench. You could probably have that from point of being uncoated to being powder coated and ready to use in cool and dry, or cool, because as soon as it starts to cool down, the product is cured. I would say an hour. From start to finish, it would be dry, perfectly smooth, glossy, and done in about an hour. And there's nothing else to do with it, which is kind of what makes powder coating really nice. It is a very durable finish when done properly. That's about all I know. So let's get this rim out of the oven. I did prep the rim a little bit yesterday. especially with aluminum. I found it a lot less with steel, which would make sense. Aluminum will absorb anything, any greases, any oils, anything that are around it, aluminum will absorb. It's just aluminum's more porous. So with aluminums, especially, they say to do it with all of them, and it makes sense to do it with all of them. I just don't find it's a big deal with steel or any solid, like less porous metals. You put it in the oven and you get it up to over 400 degrees. So I got this rim yesterday to about 430 degrees, and I baked out any contaminants that were in the aluminum, in theory, have baked out to 430 degrees. So when I coat this thing, this rim, and put it back in the oven and get it up to 400 degrees, nothing else should come out of the rim as far as any kind of oils. You're supposed to wipe them down. Like after you bake it, you wipe it down. These rims have been sandblasted, so they're kind of like a rough texture, and I really don't want to wipe them down with anything. So what I'm gonna do is I have a spray bottle with acetone in it, and I'm gonna get the rim out, set it down here, and just spray the whole thing down with acetone, and just kind of let it drip off and run off. And that's the best I can think to do with it. And anything that's not very rough, you can just take acetone and wipe it down really well. And again, on most steel products, I can just wipe it down with acetone really well and powder coat it, and I never have a problem. With aluminums, I have come up with where oils and greases will bubble out and you'll get bubbles in your finish. With these rims, I'm not that concerned. I mean, I'd really like them to be as nice as possible, but it is what it's going to be. These are the biggest product I've ever tried to powder coat, and we'll see how it goes. These are going to be 2-color rims, so there's a couple of different things I have to do different on these than I would for just a single coat, and I've learned a couple things that I will show you to make this work a little bit better as far as sharp edges, because powder coat doesn't always like to stick to a sharp edge, so I'll show you that as well. I'm going to preheat this rim up just a little bit as part of the process, but I want to spray it off with acetone first. This is the bracket I made yesterday to hold the rims, and you got to remember when you're powder coating, everything you're using has to be able to get to a minimum of 400 degrees. So you can't use like masking tape and stuff like that to mask things off. And I don't want these threads from here down to get too covered in powder coat. I mean, not that I couldn't clean it out, just run a tap over and clean any powder coating out of them that got into them, but it's just easier if I keep them from getting covered. So one of the things I found out works really well is aluminum foil. I'll just take aluminum foil. And the reason I don't want to mess these threads up is because right now this is an adjustable setup that I can adjust the rims on. And I've got 3 more sets of rims to powder coat, so the more I can keep this bracket in good condition, the better off we're going to be. So there. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to cover the threads. Okay, with that, that's good enough for what I needed to do. Now here's the rim. The thing I'm going to do with this bracket is set it here over this hole so that I can get underneath here if I need to spray powder coat up from underneath there. I don't think I'm going to have to yet, but just in case. Because with this first coat, I am just doing this front edge. I'm going to turn the oven on to like 300 degrees. That'll work. And the oven's on. Okay, I'm going to spray this down with acetone. This is dry very quickly. I've never done this before, so I don't actually know if this is going to work. I don't see why it wouldn't work. I am hoping that it doesn't explode in the oven though. We'll do it like that. Now that the rim is drying, we'll give it a couple minutes. Got the oven kind of heating up. I will explain to you a little bit about what I have to do now. So now that this is kind of washed down, I could just start powder coating this. Hook up my negative and put my powder onto it. And I'm going to have black on these spokes, and I'm going to have black, I think it's going to be black on this section all the way around here, and then this edge is going to be gold. That's the plan anyway. So basically anything raised is going to be, actually, no, take that back. These are going to be black up to here, and then this edge out here is going to be black as well. So this section is going to be gold. That's how we're going to do this. I can throw it in the oven and powder coat it. That's not a problem. It works all the time. But what tends to happen a lot with sharp edges like these is as the powder coat heats up, it'll pull, and it won't stick to these sharp edges. It's just something that happens. So what I found I can do is I'll put this into the oven and get some heat into this rim and get it up to about 300 degrees. And then I will hit it with the powder coat. And as the powder coat hits this edge, it'll start to, it'll melt almost immediately. And a lot of times it'll allow it to stick to these edges better. And I can put it back in the oven and let it do its cure up thing. Because I'm doing two colors though, I have to put this into the oven and not cure the black color all the way. Put it in there, let it get kind of melty, pull it back out, let it cool down, then spray my second color, wipe off where I want the black to be, and then put it back in the oven to cure the entire room at one time. I've never had to do that before. This is a first time, but we're gonna find out how it goes. So I'm gonna have to get some oven mitts to be able to touch this on the way back out. Put it all the way in. Let it bake for a minute. The two colors I am doing, it's called Shimmering Metallic, but it is a black. It looks kind of gray in here. So that's the first color I'm gonna put down. And again, this stuff is just a real light powder. You gotta be careful. It just everywhere. You can use these nicely right out of the container. So I can actually unscrew that bottle, stick my hose right into this bottle, and it screws right on. And when you're done, you can just put the cap back on, and anything you didn't use stays in here. This gold, on the other hand, I have to put into that bottle. Actually, I have another clear bottle I'll probably put it into. The nice thing about powder coat is, unlike paint, when you're done using a color in a bottle, it takes some compressed air, blow off the gun really well, blow up the tube, blow everything off. Wherever you see any color, blow it off, and you're done. I mean, that's as easy as the cleanup is, which is really cool. Thought these were Ziploc. Oh, they are. Okay, hold on. Let me get this open, and I will get this color poured in. Eastwood sells all these bottles as well, so you can get as many of these as you want. I've got a whole box of them over there with a bazillion different colors, but not the colors I wanted, actually. According to what I read, it could take 3 to 4 pounds of powder to powder coat 4 rims. This gold is 1 pound, and that black is 8 ounces. I'm finding out that an IR gun is pretty key when doing these, because I can set this oven to 400 degrees, and it goes off at preheated 400, and I put this rim in there yesterday at 400. The rim itself only got up to about 304 degrees or something like that. It was not to the 400 that it needs to be to bake the powder coat. It needs to be 400. So I actually had to get this up to about 460 in the oven to get the rim up to 400 degrees. So be aware that just because the oven says 400 doesn't mean what's in the oven is 400. So let's see what we're at. Currently, we're at 207 degrees, 215, 250. So we're getting up there. Probably enough for me to get it out and get it on the wood here and start to put some of this black down. Let me get the air line hooked up to the gun, and we'll start spraying some powder. So this is a very broken regulator, but for what I'm doing, it comes down to more of how much feel you like out of your air. So like with this one, to me, to my ear, that sounds about right. Turn it up a little bit more. That sounds about right for the amount of airflow that I want. I can always adjust it again. That's why I kind of like having a regulator on here, because I can adjust instead of going back to the compressor. I can just kind of dial it in while I'm putting the powder down. Got my welding gloves. We'll go in and get this out. And we'll set it over top of here. I'm going to take this negative lead, just clamp it anywhere on this metal. I'll just do it this way. I'll see. Just clamp it anywhere on the metal frame, which is why it's a metal frame. I'm going to pull the trigger to make the power work. I'm going to go to dual voltage, and we're just going to pull the trigger real slightly.
To make sure you're learning from mistakes that you did last.
Nice thing about this over paint is that there are no fumes. Ooh, so you gotta be careful how much you pull the trigger. Just a little bit of trigger.
Don't try to cover up your ways. In light of what you've seen so far, there are better ways.
Now well, there's probably a lot of drawbacks to powder coat, but the one major drawback to powder coat is, I don't know if you can see, let me get this in here real quick, I didn't coat it. Next to the spokes, what happens is there's an electrical charge that builds up, basically a Faraday cage, and the powder won't want to go in there. The other reason why I like to get the rim hot when I'm doing like really sharp edges like that, not that it's gonna matter on this one per se, but if you turn off the electricity and you go to hit it, and you're just running the gun, any powder that hits it is gonna stick and fill those voids in. So you don't have to always use the button to get powder down. All of the spokes looks like they are coated relatively well. I think the spokes are done. So we're gonna throw it back in the oven and let it bake a little bit. Okay, the rim is back in the oven. And I have to keep a very close eye on it because there's a point in the powder that's called flowing out, and where it all looks smooth and liquid. And I want to pull this out just before that happens because, like I said, I don't want this to cure yet. I want it to be a solid layer, but I don't want it to be a full out cure, because if I do and I put the gold down and then go to cure it again, I will have over cured the black. And over curing the powder coat is just as bad as under curing it. So I don't think I can actually do that with this anyway, because the temperature of my oven isn't at 400 degrees yet. So I shouldn't be able to get to that stage. But I think I probably have to get it closer than what it is. So we're gonna bring it up. I know at 400 degrees, the rim isn't at 400 degrees. So we're gonna crank up the heat a little bit and get some more heat into this rim. We're gonna shoot the rim again. We're at about 250 degrees. Yeah, and if you look, it kind of looks wet now. Not completely, but it's not that same dry looking powder that it once was. And I think that should be enough to do what we need it to do. So at this point the rim's out and we can go over and look at it to make sure we didn't miss. Again, I'm only getting these high spots and this high spot out here is all I'm really concerned about hitting with this black and making sure that it's good. This black does have a little bit of a flake in it, which once it completely flows out and smooths out, it should be a little bit more evident. But everything, I mean, if I had to, I could hit it again really quick with some more powder if I thought I missed a spot. Again, one of the nice things with that is you can just hit it and it's not a big deal. But this all looks really good and got a nice coating on it. And we're gonna let this cool down to room temperature again. Depending on where you shoot, about 100 degrees. No hotter than I can hold, so ambient temperature on a hot summer day would be this, so it's ambient temperature. So we should be good to go with what we need to do from there. So I'm gonna take it off of here, off of the stand, and very gently set it like that. Very gently. And the black powder is to a point where it's a cohesive bond. So I'm gonna come back through here and clip the electrode. Actually, I can probably just set the electrode on it and it would work just fine as long as I have a good contact point. Actually, right there is fine because I'm going to be hitting that with gold paint anyway, or gold powder anyway. So I have now connected just on this inside edge, very carefully, gently, but it should have enough of a bond to the aluminum to allow me to go in there with gold. This part I have never done before, so now we're into territory I've never done. You gotta be careful not to blow too much air either. You gotta kind of be gentle, because I just hit it there and blew some of my gold off because I was a little bit too close with the air. So we're gonna come in here, a little distance ourselves from it, and try to and again, it won't be difficult to recoat it. I don't know if my ground connection isn't great or what, but I am not getting good adhesion. I'm leaving a pile of gold. Which is not normal. The front's getting coated nicely though, so that's good. I'll try to bite this in a little bit better. The other thing is this gold over this this silver is hard to see actually. I may be coated well and just don't notice that I'm coated well. I'm gonna say that looks coated halfway decent. But again, it's hard to tell. Let's put this back on here. Okay. So now to the part that I've never attempted before. Attempt to wipe off these spokes. In theory, it should be pretty simple. and get it as close to me as possible. And worst case is I got to recode it, right? Right. The professionals use a vacuum. So I'm wondering if that's going to just be the better way to do this, because I'm just leaving a lot of residue. So I'm going to try a vacuum. Well, you're not going to be able to hear this part very well, so I'm just going to probably just do it with music over it. But I hooked up a small piece of tubing to a vacuum cleaner, which I should get a longer piece of tubing, but that seems to be the best for getting this off. And it would make sense because that's what I've seen people do. So I'm going to now try to vacuum off all of this. And then I can probably come back here with my finger and get the very final bits off of what I don't want coated. And it'll be good. So let me go, I'll start vacuuming it off. Well, as you can see, it's working, but I'm also pulling more off than I want to. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to hit this part again up on this edge, and then I think I might have to punch some holes in my tube so you don't have as much vacuum. And I just want just enough to pull off this and not enough to start pulling off anything else. So you can even see right here, I pulled off just a smidge on the sides that I didn't want to. So I'm going to just hit it really quick with some powder, and then see if I can fix that. So far, this is what we got, which isn't looking bad. There's a couple imperfections in it, but again, this is the first rim I'm doing, so I'm okay with expecting a few imperfections. I mean, can't expect the first time to come out perfect. Try to clean that edge up a little bit. What I did find out, I was putting too much vacuum onto it, so I punched a couple of holes in my vacuum. That looks like an elephant now. To try to get less suction out of this hose, and that seemed to work a lot better. I mean, I probably might still have a little bit too much, but it's getting better. So I'm just going to go over and carefully, as best I can, try to wipe off any of this excess that I have on here with my finger, and maybe like a paintbrush. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I think that'll be the best to try to get all this excess off, and then we will throw it back in the oven and we'll find out what happens. Again, this is first time. I have no idea what's going to happen here. What I'm doing now is I took a paper towel and it's got it damp, like I mean I ran out through the fog and waved it in the air in the fog. That's how little water is on this, but just enough to make it so that I can run the spokes. And I already bumped the rim in a spot with my knuckle, and it is what it is. The only way to repair that would be to repowder coat. So, you know, it's going to be the rim that I powder coated, and I'm okay with that. I know they're not going to be perfect, but I think they're still going to look good. So I'm going to go through here, and I'll show you exactly what I'm doing with this so carefully, so carefully. You can see this spoke here has a lot of gold still on it. So I'm folding this thing down to like points. Then I'm just coming up here and just taking my time and running down the spoke. Like that. And that's all I'm doing. Doing the best I can to get, like, take 2 passes on it. This one's going to take a little bit more. Get down through here. And that's kind of all I'm doing to try to do the final wipe down before this goes in the oven. Well, that's about done. I did touch it right there, but it's what it is at this point. Is it perfect? Not by any means. Did I save myself, when this is all done, did I save myself over $1,000? Absolutely. Can I do it again myself? Sure I can. So the oven is up to temperature. We will throw this in, and we'll actually see how it comes out once it's done. So let's put this in. All the way in, and we close the door. The rim's been in here for quite some time, and I'm having trouble hitting 400 degrees. Spots of the rim are 400, 383, 385, 396, 401, 397. This front edge is colder than the rest of it, but I think it's because I have the door open. Yeah, if you get to the top ridge of it, it's like 372. But I'm at the max of the oven. The oven can't go any hotter than this. I'm at 500 degrees on the oven, and this is the max I can do. So I'm going to hope it's going to be good enough. I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes. And once 20 minutes comes up, I'll shut the oven off, open the door up, let the rim cool down nice and slowly. Yeah, I don't know what the difference is. It is colder today, maybe, but the oven should be insulated enough to keep the heat in. I mean, nothing on top of here is hot or warm even. So I don't know why the rim, unless the powder coating itself, see now we're up to 383, 385, when we were just 360. So we're darn close to 400. So I'm going to set this for 20 minutes and not open it again, and shut it off and let it cool down. So I'll see you guys in 20 minutes. And 20 minutes is up, and the garage didn't burn down, so that's good. Let's see what we have here. Ooh, we're a little hot, but we're good. We got her up to 400 by not touching the oven. I can see a couple imperfections in there. Hopefully we didn't overbake this rim. I don't think we did. Only spots of it are over 400. Well, everything of the rim is over 400 degrees, so that's good. We're going to shut the oven down, off, and let the rim cool down. While the rim is cooling down, I'm going to go make dinner. And after dinner, I will bring you out, and we'll see what we have. I can see a couple imperfections in the rim that I didn't do that were just there, but we'll go through those once the rim's out of the oven. We'll see you after dinner. Well, that's it. The rim is out of the oven. It's cooled down, and again, other than a couple imperfections, like I did that one. But I'll show you up here, there's a couple odds and ends here that I don't know if there was still oils in it, or because that did get a little bit hotter than what I baked it at, that these came out. The only other thing I can think of is that when I do the next set of rims, I'll just put them in at 500 degrees, let them go, and get as hot as they can get before I put the powder coating on. But you know, they're not bad. They're, as the namesake of the YouTube channel, they're 10-foot rims. I mean, from 10 feet away, they're gonna look fantastic. And honestly, that's all I was looking for. I wasn't looking for, I mean, I am looking for as good as possible, don't get me wrong. I wanted them to be perfect, but this is just not my thing. It's something I'm gonna have to learn to be able to do it better and better. As I get through the next 3 rims, I'm sure they're gonna get better. I was just talking to my brother about it. We may actually try taping off the next one to see if taping the spokes, then powder coating, peel the tape off before I throw it in the oven. That might give me a better outcome to what we've got going on here. I'm not unhappy with it by any means. It's just there's things that I know I can do better, and I'm going to try to do better. But I'll show you some of the imperfections here and some of the things that I'm not quite sure what happened. So like I said, that there I did. I touched it with my knuckle. So that was my bad. These here will look to be fish eyes. Like if in paint there would be a fish eye. There's one there as well. And I think that just comes from oils that are trapped in the aluminum. Well, I wasn't 100% certain when I got it done that I liked it as much as I thought I did, but seeing it on Ruby, I really like it a lot, honestly. I think get the tires put on it, and that rim is going to look really, really good like that. And again, from where you're sitting to what you see here, it looks pretty darn good. I mean, it's not, but it looks really darn good. So now I just have 3 more to do, but I'll show you those finished on another episode. So thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope everybody has a great week.
We'll be right back.